For as long as I've been mayor and previous mayors as well, we've always delivered a State of the City address to the Marysville Toledo Chamber of Commerce, which is a wonderful event, a great venue, and a great opportunity to speak to folks, primarily the business community. But the one thing it doesn't do is it's on a Friday morning at about 7:30 when most people are headed to or at work. And so really wanted to try something different this year, where in addition to that, we held a community State of the City right here in Marysville in an evening, when hopefully it would be more convenient for people to come, and of course free of charge, and just a great opportunity to get together and share what's going on in Marysville and take questions of those who have them, and just hopefully have a great evening of talking about this great community. So I'm excited about the first event here tonight, and we're looking forward to it.
Thank you very much, and Jim, thank you for that. It was neat to see the hands go up that haven't been in this building. That's one of the fun things about tonight, is to kind of reintroduce the community, hopefully, to this Opera House, which is the only building on the historical register in the city of Marysville. And so we're really pleased with that. I did want to start out by thanking a few folks. First of all, I want to thank Leah and Jim and all the other Parks, Culture, and Recreation staff that are around here that helped put this together this evening, and the refreshments, and just get the whole thing ready to go. Thank you for that. Connie Menny back there, who helped put this speech together. So as Jim said, I deliver this every January at the Chamber, and then we do one for the employees. Really excited this year about trying this out, giving this speech just to the general public on a week night evening in a setting like this. So appreciate you all very much for coming out. This is a really encouraging. Also want to thank our city council members. I know at least 3 of them are here tonight. Mark James, if you could raise your hand, newly elected council member Mark James, Tom King, right there, and Steve Muller back here. Appreciate them for coming out. And we also have council members Michael Stevens, Rob Toyer, Jeff Vaughn, and Council President Camille Norton, who round out your 7-member city council. A great city council, all 7 of them. I'm just honored to work with as we move forward with putting together the plans here for the city of Marysville that you'll hear about tonight. I also want to thank my director team, and I'll start with Chief Administrative Officer Gloria Hiroshima. She's out of town, so was unable to come this evening, but she just does great work in our community, and appreciate her so much. Jim Ballou, who you just got to see, our Parks, Culture, and Recreation Director. Kevin Nielsen, who's also out of town, runs Public Works for us. Sandy Langdon is right over here. Sandy's our finance director, keeps the bills paid and keeps the finances in order. Police Chief Rick Smith, appreciate the great work that the chief does. Dave Konig's our community development director. Bill Colton is our human resources director. And while we partner with the fire district, so they don't report up through city government, but Fire Chief Martin McFalls is right back here, does great work there. So, State of the City, excited to let you know that there's a lot of great things going on in Marysville. We certainly face challenges like every other community, but there's a lot of great things going on. The residents and businesses of this community are really the heart of making Marysville what it is. One of the things that I love is that as mayor, I get to see things from a 30,000-foot level, and also day-to-day nuts and bolts of what's going on. And so I'm hoping to communicate tonight a little bit about maybe some things. So to start with, just wanted to put our mission up: provide quality, innovative, and efficient municipal services that promote economic growth, thriving neighborhoods, healthful living, and financial sustainability for our residents and our businesses. And we try to operate under that and live by that every day. And when you think of that, the first thing I wanted to talk about was financial stewardship. This is obviously critical for any organization, but particularly for a government organization. I want you to know that Marysville is committed. City Council and I and our staff are committed to financial transparency. One of the things we did, and I don't think there's a lot of cities that have this implemented, but it's called a new open books feature, which we give you access to on the website. So you can go on our website and you can filter through the budget and actual expenses of the city. You can drill it right down to the department and just find out where all of your tax money is being spent. And so we want full transparency with that. That's available to you with a few clicks of the mouse on your computer. It also will walk you through some of the budget processes and the financial reports and things of that nature. So hopefully you get a chance to take a look at that when you have a few minutes. One thing Sandy worked real hard on that we're real pleased with is Moody's upgraded our bond rating to AA2 in 2017. What that means is that the fewer of your tax dollars go to paying interest on debt, which is a huge deal for our community. The higher that bond rating goes, the more we can leverage those dollars and lower the money going to debt. Another key thing that I am so grateful for is we have had clean audits in the city of Marysville every year since 2005, thanks to the hard work of Sandy and her staff and every department director. Nothing strikes fear in the heart more than any elected official or anybody really in city government than to have audit issues. And so it takes a lot of work to keep everything going and keep all the documentation that we need and all the transparency and responsibility with the public's money. So appreciate the work done there. And they've also received the Government Finance Officers Award for the city's annual financial report every year since 2007. So that's kind of a sum total of some of the financial workings of the city from that standpoint. And I'll tell you, we're not going to, back in the when I first became mayor in 2010, those first couple years, this speech was really heavy on budget because everybody was in the teeth of the recession, and that was really where we were all at, whether you're in the private sector or public sector. Tonight, we're going to spend a lot of time on public safety because that's first and foremost on the minds of everybody. So we touch a little bit on finance, and I can tell you from the standpoint of the overall budget, the city is in extremely healthy shape. We have a balanced budget, of course, with healthy reserves. We have the council walls off a 10% emergency reserve, and we really just pretend like that's not there. We also have a very healthy capital reserve fund, which some of these projects that you'll see about and some of the things you hear coming in the future, that capital reserve can be leveraged so that there's less debt when we want to take on big projects. So the city council's been very diligent and we've worked in partnership at really managing the city's finances in such a way that we can pay for cash on some things, not on everything, but on some things that we weren't able to in the past, and just have, frankly, a really healthy, sustainable budget to do the work that needs to be done in our community. So moving on to public safety, we'll dig into some things here. We'll spend quite a bit of time on public safety, really because when you think of priorities for government, there's no greater priority than public safety for sure. And in the times that we live in all across the nation, this is something that people are very rightfully concerned about. I want to start off with a few lighter parts of this. The National Night Out. Hopefully you get a chance to come out to National Night Out. If you didn't, it's the second week of August or first week of August every year. It's a great time. The police bring and fire and everybody, they bring out some of the toys and let the kids get on them. So that's what you see pictured up there. On a more serious note, our school resource officers did a fantastic job this year going into the community and raising money. And I want to thank the business owners and others that contributed to this. They raised about $38,000 to put on a full-scale anti-bullying campaign in all of our middle and high schools. And it culminated with a fantastic standing room only event with some national speakers that they brought in. I was at that event. There was hundreds of people there. And it talked about the value of, yes, anti-bullying, but of building our kids up and putting them on a path of confidence and with adults that care about them or that are in their lives, and really a community that values them. So kudos to our school resource officers for going above and beyond just the standard school hours and putting that on. We had a Citizens Academy with 25 residents that participated. That was a fantastic event as well. A youth academy with 28 of our youths at the beginning of last summer vacation. I got to go up and speak to the graduation of this youth academy, and I like to tell the story of this young man. I believe he was a freshman. Got up and spoke at the end of that and said that he was there because as a punishment. His parents had made him come to the youth academy as punishment. And he had showed up the first day with flip-flops on, and the officers had said, "Hey, we're going to be running around with the dogs, the police dogs, etc." He's like, "I'm just going to keep my flip-flops." Well, by the end of the week, he was so fired up, and when he got up and spoke that day, he said that he wanted to become a police officer. So he started the week, and that was the last place he wanted to be. Ended the week by wanting to be a police officer. it just showed, it was inspiring to me, and it showed the value of relationships with our police and the youth of the community and how we set the stage for a real path to success. So that was a lot of fun. Byron and Kim Muck are here this evening. They manage our neighborhood watch. I believe you're at 47 now? 48. 40, oh, well, see, 48. They're trying to get to 50, so if you're not part of a neighborhood watch, you can see Byron or Kim, and we'll try and get to 50 here after this evening. But so appreciate our entire MVP team, which they're a part of, Marysville Volunteer Patrol, that do house checks when people are on vacation. They drive around our schools regularly, especially during the hours where school's starting and letting out. Over 4,000 hours of community service by this group, which is just fantastic. So let's dig into some of the meat of what's going on. Crime rates. I am so proud of our police department. We will talk about trains later, but I am so proud of our police department. And we're going to talk quite a bit about this, but just to give you a few of the stats, when you look at 2017 crime rates as compared to 2016, crime has been driven down 8% in our community. If you compare 2017 to 2015, it's down 15%. 23% if you do 2017 compared to 2014, and 20% 2017 compared to 2013. So the chief and I meet on a regular basis and pore over these numbers and look at how to strategize different areas of the community to continue driving this down. And the chief and his command staff set out at the beginning of this back in 2013, 2014 area and said we want to drive crime down 20% in our community. Seemed like a pretty hefty goal. And they're doing that. They're doing that year over year through proactive, aggressive policing. I want to talk to you about a few of these areas that they've broken the city down into. One, we have two of these what are called SODA areas, stay out of drug areas. I wanted to walk through a little bit of that because one question I get is, well, why don't we make the entire city a stay out of drug area? But the parameters around stay out of drug areas are this. It has to be an area with really significant drug crime. Because what you do is, if you capture somebody in a stay out of drug area committing a drug crime, you can ask the judge to slap this order on them, and they can't even be in that area of the city. If they're found in that area of the city, they can be locked up because they've proven that they're part of a major problem with the drug epidemic. So you can't just make the whole city a stay out of drug area. You got to prove that there's an issue there. So in the stay out of drug area, the downtown area, we used to have an issue where that was about 20% of our drug crimes in the entire city. It represented 1/20 of the community, but about 20% of our drug crimes. So there obviously was a problem. We implemented this SODA. City Council passed it. Our judges partnered with our judges. Crime has been driven down 36% in that area since that. So it's obviously an effective tool when implemented by our police. There's a northern SODA that we just implemented here in the last year or so in conjunction with Arlington out in the Smoky Point area. We've seen a 21% drop in crime there. That combines with Northern Lights, which is an operation we do in conjunction with the business owners out in the Smoky Point area. A lot of the retail and commercial operations. We've been meeting with them for about 2.5 years. Chief and I and a number of others go out there and meet with them periodically. We've got a whole group. The first meeting was pretty unpleasant. They were pretty upset. There was a lot of issues. Now when we go out to a meeting, they're 100, well, you guys have turned this around 180 degrees. And we hear a lot of positive things, and we've started combining that with business owners from Arlington meeting. And so success story there. We still need to remain ever vigilant. We realize there's still issues there, as there are everywhere, but progress has been made. Southern Comfort, this is an area kind of down along the waterfront. We're really having to monitor those areas. Crime's down 19% there compared to 16 and 32% compared to 2015. So those are some of the strategic areas, and we'll talk more about overall crime here in a bit. But code enforcement, why that's under this is because code enforcement has been something that I'm passionate about, the city council is passionate about, and the community is. This is part of our Clean Up Marysville campaign. We want to make sure that this community becomes, well, every year we're trying to increase and reestablish the image of a clean and a pristine community and a community on the rise. We've tried to partner with our neighborhoods and with our community to clean up different areas of the city that really need it. Code enforcement is a really important part of that tool. We always seek through our code enforcement department, voluntary compliance. So if there's an issue where there's old broken down vehicles and tires or whatever stacked in the front yard or whatever's driving home values down in your neighborhood maybe, we'll send code enforcement out, we'll look for voluntary compliance. If there isn't voluntary compliance, of course, we take another path, but what's worked great is we moved this under our police department. Police did a fantastic job putting a plan together and really organizing how to make this happen. And they tagged nearly 700 junk vehicles just in this first year that they've had code enforcement. And of nearly 600 code enforcement cases, they've managed to close 85% of those. Those are by far record numbers. And so it shows that we're having success cleaning up Marysville. Most of those are voluntary. A few hard-nosed cases that we're working on, but kudos to them and a great success story there. One of my commitments to the chief, and something that the city council's done a great job of funding through their budget process, is we need more police officers. We have an aggressive crime fighting strategy. We're asking a lot of this department, and so we need to make sure they have the resources to do that. So we've budgeted a few new positions every year. We had budgeted 2 more for 2017, went back to the city council and asked them late last year if they would put even 2 more on top of that, and they did that. They voted to add even 2 more to that. So we hired 15 new employees in our police department last year. 7 brand new patrol officers to fill new positions. 4 others replaced people who had left, and then 3 jail and custody, and then 1 in our records department. We still have about 5 open positions that they're working very hard to hire right now. It's an extremely competitive environment right now to hire police. One, it's not always a fun time to be a police officer in the age that we're living in. 2, every community seems to be hiring them. So whether you go talk to Mayor Franklin in Everett or anywhere else, it's very difficult to hire police officers right now. You can make an offer and they can be gone to somewhere else the next day. And there's a backlog in getting them through the academy, and so oftentimes you have to wait a few months. So our HR team, Gloria, the chief, and the team put together an aggressive hiring strategy for this year, and we've knocked our open positions down by about 200%. And so hopefully we'll close that off and hire the rest of them here in the first half of this year, have a fully staffed department. We also have, I will say, one of the other reasons why it's a little bit difficult to hire, we have very high standards for our department. There are some people that we turn down that'll go get hired on at another department, and we're okay with that. We would rather wait a little bit longer and make sure we get top-notch people. So I mean, I'm going to move on to talking about some of the other stuff, but can we give our police a hand? I know there's some of them here, but they just do a really good job. Really good job protecting us. So let's get on to homelessness, the opioid epidemic, some of these things that are plaguing communities all across the United States of America. And I mean that because I get to talk to mayors and council members all over the state and all over the country every year. There's hardly a community that's not touched by this in some way, some more than others. But we have mapped out the homeless encampments in Marysville, and our police are in there regularly dealing with that, especially in areas where it affects the residents and businesses of our community. Many of these incidents cross city limits, Arlington and Marysville, Tulalip and Marysville, Everett and Marysville, whatever. And so we've tried to team up with a regional approach as well with the county and the cities that surround us. Our police are on top of this. We're dealing with it on a regular basis. We're working in partnership with Arlington on some new initiatives that I'll share here in just a moment. But I did want to share a couple things with you. One, the Smoky Point Business Community Committee that I just talked about is expanded. We had about 30 business owners at our last meeting in Smoky Point, an area that has particular issues around this. And so we're forming a partnership with the community, the police and the community and the leadership to best hit this issue from all angles. One of those angles that I'm going to share with you is a way that you all can help out. And I'm a big believer in this. We have really aggressively dealt with the panhandling issue in this community. through a Keep the Change campaign where we've asked people to keep the change and give the money to a local charity where you know it'll go to food, clothing, and shelter. And we've also had some enforcement around panhandling in areas where it's dangerous with people darting out into the streets and whatnot. I've had several people contact me just this last year and say they're amazed at the amount of, at how we've been able to clean that up on a number of our intersections that were plagued by that in the past. The reason I think it's important to not give money to panhandlers and to instead, if you want to donate, give to a local charity, is because when you give the money to a panhandler, in a great number of those instances, that money goes to feed a heroin habit. That's just the honest truth. They will tell you that. I had a Cairo, I think it was a Cairo, or one of the TV reporters come up and meet with me when we did this campaign and said, well, we're going to go up and talk to some of the panhandlers. And that night I watched her on the news and she said, well, the mayor told me that they're hearing from the police and from a lot of the folks in the community that a lot of this money goes to drugs. So I asked the panhandler, I said, yeah, and this guy, he was honest. He told me whatever I get tonight, I'm going to buy heroin with it. And we've had community members that will tell us the same thing. And so what we're saying is this, is the only way you can guarantee that that money will go to what I think you all would want it to go to, and when I say you all, I mean we all, the whole community, to what we would want it to, and that's food, clothing, and shelter, is to give it to a charity that provides only that. If you hand the money out the window to a panhandler, there's a really good chance you're helping to feed a drug habit, and that's exacerbating the problem that we're trying to solve. So Mayor Tolbert and I started this campaign, and we have a community resource flyer, I believe, here that shows you all the areas where you can give money. Is it back there, Connie? Yeah. You can pick one of those out or pick a few of them out and hand them out to your neighbors and friends. And we realize that everybody who gives, well, I'm sure most people that give money out the window to a panhandler, their heart is in the right place. Absolutely trying to do the right thing, wanting to do the right thing. There's no question about that. We're just hoping that our community will redirect those resources to where we know that it's doing the right thing. We can know beyond a shadow of a doubt. So that's a campaign we've started. So that's a way you can help. Well, what is the city doing? We're trying something in 2018, a 2-year pilot program that we've never done in this community before. We are going to, in partnership with the county, and we thank the county council for partnering with us on this and the county staff, we're going to do an embedded social worker program. These interviews were held last week. Hopefully this will be up and running sometime in March. What that means is we are hiring 2 embedded social workers for this area, one for Marysville, one for Arlington, but they'll work in tandem in certain hot spots. That will be coupled with, we have devoted a police officer to this, so is Arlington and so is the county. So you'll have 3 police officers, you'll have 2 embedded social workers, one dedicated to Marysville, one to Arlington. They'll go into these homeless camps, and what they'll be doing is they'll be looking to find people that truly want help, and they're going to offer them a real path out of that lifestyle. So we're going to invest taxpayer dollars into this problem to give people a second chance. And so they will go in, and they'll go in multiple times, and these are professionals that understand this work. These are people that have done this before. This has been tried and worked in other communities. It's not a panacea, it doesn't help everybody, but it's a real solution. Because one of the things that I found, had a situation worked out with the Salvation Army where we could get somebody on any night of the week, go pull them out of the woods, we'll get you in the not the Salvation Army, the Everett Gospel Mission. And then we set up 4 city houses in our city for transitional housing that we house homeless in right now. And so my deal with them was we'll take them out of your gospel mission into these transition houses and help wrap services around them. The faith communities help to wrap services around them, get them job training, and a couple instances have gotten them full-time jobs, get them volunteering at least, things of that nature. But I got to have beds at your gospel mission if my police find somebody who wants help. What we consistently heard, and I heard this myself, out with my family going to Cold Stone one night and almost tripped over somebody passed out in front of the thing, and it's like, we can get you in the gospel mission. Called one of our officers, they came out and offered that. No, I don't want to go to the mission. We never had one taker. Don't want to go to the mission. Mission lifestyle is not for me. So you can think, we can all think whatever we want about that, but what this will be is something much different. This social worker will go out there and say, we'll pull you out of this lifestyle. We'll get you in a 72-hour detox, and then we'll find a 30 or 60-day drug rehab program, and we'll put you through that. And these options exist in Skagit County and King County, more and more in Snohomish County. If we have to, we'll fly them to California, where they have an abundance of these. And we've got a community fund that doesn't have taxpayer dollars in it, private money that'll provide these flights and some of the ancillary needs they'll have to get through this. But the idea is we'll pull you out, we'll get you detox, we'll get you to 30, 60-day program, then we wrap services around you, we try and get you some job training, we turn your life around. It's probably about a 6 to 12 month process at least. In some cases it'll be much longer. But that's a real path out of that lifestyle. And it's not something that would have been offered in almost any community a few years ago. Certainly not here. So what I feel with that is that this is a two-pronged approach, and the chief and I have probably talked about this hundreds of times over the past year. And the city council, I want to say, has been massively supportive of this program. Without their funding it, we wouldn't have been able to do it. So you've got a city council, police department, and a mayor's office that are all teaming up to put this together to offer real help in our community. The second prong of that, and I think it's just as important, is we're going to get very, very, very tough on people that don't want to take advantage of this. Because almost all of our non-violent crime is related to this drug epidemic. The car thefts, the car break-ins, the home break-ins, the business break-ins, the theft from stores, along with the nuisance things like the calls I get from mothers who have 2 kids in a car seat while they're filling up gas and have somebody come up, a large individual, right in their face asking them for money. And all of a sudden they've got to make a decision. Do I just hand this guy money and not risk issues that could happen? That's not fair. That's not fair to law-abiding citizens. It's not fair that I have to get a call from a business owner that says I had to go clean a bloody needle out of my sink or wipe up blood off the floor. I had to have a 17-year-old employee come in today and had to deal with somebody passed out in front of our doorway. We're not going to put up with that anymore, not in this community. And so we're going to offer those people a way out, and we're going to keep offering it. We'll give them time to figure that out. But ultimately, if they decide over a period of time that, I don't want that, I want to continue to do drugs and steal for those drugs and sleep and defecate wherever I want to, then we're going to have a different answer for them. And if they've got a rap sheet, we're going to lock them up. If they don't, we're going to make sure they understand that we're watching that, and we're not going to allow it in this community. I feel right about doing that because we're offering a true solution. If we weren't offering a true solution, right, if it was just saying, get out of here, well, that's not morally sufficient. But we are offering a true solution. You all are with your tax dollars too, and so we can require something of them. And I had a conversation with an individual in this position that I wanted to share with you because it really drove this point home to me. Conversation over email. He would go into the library and email. Young man, I think he was in his late 20s, otherwise fairly healthy. He said, "Mayor, your police continue to wake me up and kick me out of the library parking lot every night. Can you tell them to just stop and allow me to just sleep here?" And there was maybe some drug issues and things involved. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that because I don't accept that the compassionate way and the compassionate solution for you as a 27-year-old, otherwise healthy individual is that your future in the city of Marysville for untold decades is to sleep in parking lots, to do drugs or whatever, and to do whatever else you do, and to just expect that the community will live with that. That's not compassionate for you. That's not a future. That's not compassionate for the law-abiding citizens of the community, and it just doesn't work. And what I told him is I will help find housing, through Housing Hope, Gospel Mission. Now we would have this program to offer. But I need you to contribute something. Because in our community, you cannot be a 100% consumer. You can't be. We'll let you do that for a little bit, but eventually you got to meet us somewhere. You got to give us 5%, 10%. And that can just be, okay, I'll accept help through the social, I'll try the program. You got to meet us somewhere. You can't, in Marysville, say, I just want to be 100% consumer of resources and of public facilities and all of that for an unspecified amount of time. This individual, we walked through options that he turned down, and I actually don't know where he's at now. The last email went unanswered, unfortunately, but I hope to reconnect with this social worker program and get the individual help. Because that's really the bottom line. The only true way out of this for the entire country is to get these people the help they need and get their lives turned around. That really is the only way. Putting them in jail solves a temporary solution, but that just means we cycle them through the system over and over again. So to that thing, before I'll hop off my soapbox and move on to something else, I think we as a community too need to make some decisions on how do we really motivate them to make the correct decision here. Because I can tell you this, I've been out with our night team. I've been in a home with a mother and a father who had their 3 kids taken away from them right here in Marysville. They used to be the house in the neighborhood that all the kids came over and baked cookies, and she doled out the cookies, and it was that family. Dad got on drugs through a back injury or whatever. It's the same story you hear all the time, overprescription, frustration. For whatever reason, mom said, well, he's hooked on him, I'll take him too. Now he's off, and we're sitting on the couch, and I'm talking to her, and she's a mess, and she's crying. And it's like, how did it get to this? And so, and I've also had conversations. We went into a house that you wouldn't think that a house like this existed in our community. The smell and the kids running around and the people completely wasted in this house and all the things that are going on. And you have these conversations, and these people are like, no, I don't want the help. You go out into the woods, and it's like, I can get food. You know, we sat in a meeting today, the chief and I, with somebody who drives around and washes and launders clothes of these individuals. And these are good people doing great things with big hearts. But you know, one thing I think we have to start asking ourselves in this community is this. If an individual can get all the food they want, they can come in and get shelter, they can get their clothes laundered, they can get a free sleeping bag, sell that sleeping bag for drugs, and go get another sleeping bag from the same resource center the next day. The same thing with tents and all that. It's going to be really hard for our social workers to convince some of these people to make the right decision and get true help in life, because we're enabling them as a community to continue to live that lifestyle. So I'm not saying that we don't provide those things. I'm saying we have to have a balance that says, you know what? I'm not going to keep giving you sleeping bags and tents. I'm not going to keep doing your laundry because I've got another option for you. I've talked to people in the cold weather shelter who will talk to people that are on drugs. They'll admit they're on drugs, and they'll tell them every single night, yeah, I'm going to get help, I'm going to get help, I'm going to get help. And they never do. Well, imagine if that decision were a little more stark, and it's like, I don't have all these resources now. Suddenly that social worker option is looking a lot better. So something to think about. I don't know how we as a community completely formulate that. We have to continue to have services for people that genuinely need them. I get that. But what we want to do is create for those that have substance abuse problems the proper motivation, because they're really not in the frame of mind to do it unless we create the proper motivation to take us up on this. So excited about this program. I'm happy to talk to you more about that. It's a real community partnership. But I wanted to get on to the Marysville Fire District as well, and Chief McFall's group. The other end of public safety. These folks do tremendous work, and we partner with the Marysville Fire District. 15,000 total calls this year. 88% EMS, 12% fire, nearly 1,300 a month, and an average response time of 6.5 minutes. So these guys do fantastic work. If we could give our fire team a hand as well. Thank you for that. More than 6,000 medical transports also in 2017, a third of them for advanced life support. You've probably read about the Regional Fire Authority that the council is looking into. So right now, we've approached Arlington, and we had a kind of a three-way talk going with Arlington and District 12 last year. There were some complications with that. There was just some imbalances in debt and things of that nature that just didn't enable that to come to fruition. And so, but right now we're in talks with Fire District 12 in Marysville, which is in a lot of ways a better fit because we already share all our resources. So they came to a tentative agreement on governance just 2 weeks ago, the City Council and District 12, the negotiating teams, and we'll continue to pursue that. And if there is an agreement out of that committee and by both bodies, then that RFA will come to the voters. So ultimately you'll weigh in on that sometime this year, potentially. So pleased to report that. Emergency management under Diana Rose. This is really neat. We are a city now of over 67,000. And so what we've done is, instead of contracting with DEM, we've brought emergency management in-house. Typically when you get about our size, that's what you do so that all the resources can be used for our community. And there's a lot more demand for that now. Training, CERT training, training for our businesses. Diana's doing Map Your Neighborhood out in the neighborhoods if people want to take advantage of that. By doing this, we can compete for grant funding to bring in emergency management resources for our community, for our emergency operations center. And it's an exciting time to be involved in that. So our citizens expect that. I think, with all the emergencies that we read about and see about, we want to be a community that equips our citizens to be prepared for emergencies and also prepared ourselves. So if you want more on that, Diana, maybe you could raise your hand there. She can help you out with any classes coming up and whatnot. Another passion of mine and the councils and everybody involved is transportation. When you're a growing community, you face transportation issues, and of course, when you're a growing region like the Puget Sound, you do as well. The transportation benefit district that the voters approved a couple of years ago, these are the projects up here for 2017. So we began an aggressive paving campaign where we try and overlay a significant amount of roadway every year, also create some sidewalks and walkability. In 2018, we'll also be doing this. I think on the slide up there, you see the top projects in 2018. It's extremely expensive to pave roads. And if you think of Marysville, from Sunnyside all the way up to Lakewood, to the Smoky Point area, I-5 all the way to Highway 9, I was meeting with somebody the other day and said, it's a huge city. I mean, geographically, it's a lot of road and it's a huge city, very expensive to maintain that. So we try and keep up with that on a yearly basis. And our public works team does a fantastic job grading the road system and overlaying the roads before they get to a state of disrepair where you would really have to do a full build out. And so fantastic work on their part. 3rd Street, I really think this is a fantastic project. What we're trying to do with 3rd is make it more walkable. This is kind of the cultural heart of our community, with some of our old and traditional businesses and an area where people kind of grew up in this community and remember that is an area that's really special. So we made it a lot more aesthetically pleasing and walkable and things of that nature. So hopefully you've had a chance to enjoy 3rd Street. On 1st Street, on the other side of State, on the west side of State, you're going to see something fairly similar. That's under construction right now. This will kind of combine with our waterfront revitalization program. That 1st Street area wasn't really that aesthetically pleasing, looking at the back of the mall and whatnot. So we're trying to beautify that a little bit. You'll see more of that coming. What is really exciting to a lot of us here is, before I talk about this 1st Street bypass, most of the state resources and even federal resources in transportation had always gone to Everett and South in this county. And about 4 or 5 years ago, we embarked on a real aggressive campaign to say, you know what, Marysville is growing. A lot of new businesses, a lot of new people coming to Marysville, and we started to aggressively lay out the resources that we needed. There was a Connecting Washington transportation package that was up in 2015, I believe it was, 15 or 16. We spent about 3 years prioritizing what we thought should be done, worked through Economic Alliance Snohomish County, our partners at Snohomish County, and several other entities around, and went and made the case for all the projects that we needed to catch up. And I'm just so excited to tell you that out of that Connecting Washington package, which is a 16-year transportation package, we got $160 million worth of money coming from the state to be invested in this community. Of the $700 million for Snohomish County, $160 million of it will in some way impact Marysville. That's going to transform our community over the next decade. So these projects, the first one is 116th, which you've probably seen, the bridge deck widening. The next phase of that will be expanded on and off ramps. In 2019, you will see, probably towards the latter part of 2019, you will see the beginning of the construction of the I-5 on and off ramp to 529. This is critical. This is something I was just such a big believer in. The council and I and city staff have worked really hard on this one, because this will provide you a way in and out of the city around the train tracks, as we heard the train earlier. What it'll also do is help solve a failing intersection that we have at 4th. When you get off the freeway at 4th, oftentimes it's backed up all the way onto the freeway. So by creating this on and off ramp further south where you can get off onto 529, come in over the new bridge into Marysville, you can now have a choice. If you live in Sunnyside or more of the south end of the community, you probably want to get off on that new off ramp. Go right there, and we'll talk about a project that'll help get you up into the foothills as well. So you're going to split that traffic off so it creates a decongestion on 4th as well. So then we thought, well, we don't want everybody merging on and colliding at 4th and State. So we're putting a First Street bypass plan together, and the council has funded this already, and the design is taking place this year. Construction will start next year. What that means is if you take that new off-ramp onto 529, come into Marysville over the new bridge, you can just peel right off, turn right onto First. You don't have to go to 4th and State, and you can go up into Sunnyside or even wind your way up to Highway 9. So it's a great option. These two projects will merge. In conjunction with that 529 off-ramp and on-ramp is something that we partnered with Everett on, and that's where we're going to, the state will be constructing a hardening of the shoulder lane for use in peak traffic hours. So when you're coming, I don't know if you remember this is back when I was actually commuting to Seattle, about 10, 12 years ago with the nickel package, they widened that area in Everett kind of around 41st. So I remember you used to always back up, and you still do to a certain degree, at Everett Mall coming from Seattle. I was like, okay, here we go. And it never is going to decongest. That got pushed further after that, kind of past towards the Marine View Drive area. Well, that hardened shoulder lane will go from the Marine View Drive exit all the way, and it'll just peel right off onto this off-ramp. So you have an extra lane of traffic from, say, 3 to 6 p.m., or whatever they determine is the peak shoulder usage time frame. You see this on 405 in some areas. I don't know if you've driven that. So it's a way to, it'd be very expensive to construct a whole new lane. This is a way to do that without having that level of expense. So look forward to that coming. The final project, so those will both kind of coincide late 2019. It'll take a couple years to build those out, but they're coming. 116th I told you about, it's already in process. 156th, where we built the overcrossing. I remember always getting these emails, well, why'd you build the overcrossing without the lanes, or without the off and on ramps? Well, the point is we built it designed for on and off ramps. That was a city project, $16 million. That's almost unprecedented for a city of our size. But what it did is made us very competitive for this type of state money to get the on and off ramps. So there's a $40 million investment coming. This is the last project, about 2025. That one will start. But that's critical. This is a 16-year package. So it goes from 2017 to 2033. And if you think about it, we got 116th and the 529 and the hardened shoulder lane in the front end of that package, which was pretty important. And so we do have one waiting towards the later end of the package, but we're pretty impressed with that. So that was a big deal. A more localized one is State Avenue from 100th to 116th. If Kevin were here, this is his favorite project. Jeff, you can stand in for that. But this is the only part of Marysville of State Avenue that doesn't have 5 lanes. So we're going to expand it from 3 to 5 lanes eventually. The design, we got a grant for the design work in 2018. Hopefully it'll put us in a competitive position for grants there as well. Back to the train issue, overcrossings. I hear this a lot, and I love venues like this where we could walk through, because it's a great question. It's one I would ask if I wasn't in city government is, why don't you just put overcrossings over all these train tracks on 4th and 88th and 116th? Well, first of all, they're very expensive. A cheap overcrossing is about $25 million. And so we don't have the money for that, A. But B, you can't, if you were, for instance, to put an overcrossing over the tracks at 4th, you've just wiped out access to all those businesses. You can't legally do that. So you'd have to buy them all up, really, or build up access to them, which would be almost impossible. You wipe out access to Beach and Cedar. So you turn that one into probably well over $100 million project. Because remember, you can't just build 2 lanes over that when right now you've got 5 lanes, right? So you can't funnel everybody down. So these are the things that when you get into the design and engineering, you realize, wow, this is hundreds of millions of dollars. 88th Street, you build an overcrossing there, you have some of the same issues. You also take people over State because the track's right by State. Well, most of the people want to turn on State, so now how do you get them back to State? 116th, you got the same thing. So we did an entire corridor study and said, well, where could we maybe do an overcrossing? Grove Street is the one place where we don't have those issues. We don't have businesses we'd have to buy out. You can get up and down before state. It's a little tight, but you can do it. And you have a community transit park and ride right there that a lot of people are trying to get to in the morning. You just pop up and over and go there. So we're looking at trying to do that. We have asked the state for some design money this year. You get design and engineering done, you can go apply for construction dollars through the federal government or through the state. So step one is just get design and engineering. And when I say that, it's because this will probably take a while to get this project, but remember when I said earlier, all those interchanges we talked about, we started trying to sell that at the state and federal level back in 2010 and 11. And sometimes you just have to start planning things for the community, and you may never be around to cut the ribbon on it, but you got to start it. You got to get it going. I'm optimistic, though, that Grove could move to the top of the line when we get design in. Council and I were in Olympia just about 3-4 weeks ago and heard very positive things about getting design money for this. I can't announce anything because it's not actually passed yet, but I think that trip will pay off with some design money. So it's exciting. 156th is another area when that interchange comes in and you go west. There is a BNSF railway that was closed to the public about 15 years ago, that rail crossing. So in order to get that access again to the 45 road and whatnot, we need to go over those tracks. So we're kind of starting to lay the groundwork for that, hey, when we build this on and off ramp at 156th, we need to reopen that roadway to get people back to that commercial and the housing areas back in there. So we're working on that one as well for the future. There's, I think, a slide in here also for a road network for business growth, 156th to 51st to 160th. Our team is designing that right now, so it'll be shovel ready so that as businesses go in out there in our manufacturing industrial center, it'll be much easier for them to permit and build that road network in conjunction with the city. So we're excited about that as well. And that brings us to the manufacturing industrial center in general. This is exciting. This is our jobs base for the community. About 4,000 acres between Arlington and Marysville, North Marysville, South Arlington, where we have master planned for light industry and manufacturing. And this is really the largest swath of land from the Canadian border through Olympia. You just can't find this anywhere. Painfield's built out, and so if you want to put in an aerospace area for Boeing supply chain or medical device or biotech or clean energy or whatever, this is an area you can do it in Snohomish County and in the Puget Sound region, and you can do it for a lot cheaper than a lot of areas. And so the first step, we put a lot of infrastructure in. That 156 overcrossing and the interchange that's coming, there's a PUD substation. We put in 2 regional stormwater ponds that businesses can hook into so they don't have to use part of their own property for it. The county's worked to deal with Comcast to get high-speed fiber out there this summer. So everything is lining up. We've already got businesses coming in, Triple T Warehouse and International Shoe Manufacturer, fish processing plants looking out there. We have got some other aerospace that's out there as well. And we're also trying to get this designated as what's called a manufacturing industrial center. Dave from Community Development has been working really hard on this. This is a big deal. To get this, there was only about 6 or 7 of these in the entire Puget Sound. That opens up all kinds of grant opportunities when you're labeled a manufacturing industrial center for the Puget Sound. It also puts you on the map for marketing. These international firms or national firms that are looking to open up will come through the Puget Sound Regional Council and say, where are the MICs? We want to take a look at them. And if you're not on that list, then you probably don't get a look. Well, it's been a 3-year process. I just spoke with Mayor Tolbert about a half hour before coming in here this evening because she was down at the PSRC meeting while I was here. And it looks like we are on the fast track to get that approved, possibly in the first half of this year with some conversations that she had. So that'll give us the MIC designation. We'll be able to allow us to move forward with a lot of our plans out there. The idea behind this is to create some family wage jobs right here in Marysville. I think we all know we're largely a bedroom community. We would like people to have the option, not everybody will want to, but have the option to, we say live, work, and play in Marysville. I think we do great with live and play. We don't have a lot of the work opportunities. This will provide that. Hopefully that's our goal. And so we actually are one of 4 cities in the entire state. We got a bill through the state legislature about 3 years ago, which will allow us to offer a property tax exemption to any business that creates a minimum of 25 full-time jobs at a minimum of $18 an hour. So they have to maintain those thresholds. And every year that they do that, up to 10 years, they can get a property tax exemption only on the improvements made. So I was talking with someone earlier tonight. Any taxes being paid on that land right now or anything on that land will continue to be paid. The only thing that they will get the exemption on is when they build that new plant or the new factory or whatever. What motivated me on this was when I had conversations with 2 or 3 companies. One was Caterpillar, one was a company out of China that came in and said, well, at the end of the conversation, it's like, well, this is great and all that, but what can you do? When I go to Arizona or Texas or Utah, there's all kinds of incentives, and we don't have any. This state does not really offer a lot of those incentives. And so we went down to Olympia, we shared that story, and we got this ability to do this pilot program. I'm really grateful for the county too, because the city portion of the property tax exemption is one thing, but the county actually came on board and the county council passed so that the county portion would be included in that, which makes it an even bigger incentive for these businesses. So again, I would stress this, none of the tax dollars that are being paid there will be lost now. They have to pay all those. It's only new taxes that would have been paid on building a plant. So if you want to invest in a plant in Marysville and hire people and pay them family wage jobs, we're going to try and find ways to help you do that. So that's economic development there. Some of the positive things that have come of this and some of the things we've talked about is KUOW and NPR ran about a 7-part series on Marysville last year. I still have people come up and say, we heard you on the radio, and it was just, they came up and they said, we've heard that this is a thriving, growing community that people want to live in and the businesses want to come to. And they went out to the MIC and did a series on that on our waterfront and got us some really good publicity. Some of the other things we've done is we did throw our name in the hat for the Amazon HQ2. We were under no illusion that we would get it. But I talked with Dave. Yeah, we tried. Talked with Dave and the staff, and the idea was, like a lot of communities, let's go through this exercise so we can prepare for the ones where we will have a legitimate chance to get. And let's get our name out there, and it's accomplished that. And so a lot of hard work went into that, and it was great. We also held a small business summit right here in the Opera House last September to really start to market some of the things that we're doing here. I want to talk a little bit about water here as we begin to get to the latter part of this. This is not a glamorous topic, but for you as a resident, for me as a resident, this is critical. What we did is the council and the city implemented a new state-of-the-art 700 square foot water treatment plant up in Sunnyside this year. We've tried to do this to perfect our water rights all throughout the city because the water that we provide locally, that we control, is on average at least 1/10 to 1/12 of the cost of the water we buy from another city. So imagine that. So the more water we buy, the more you're going to pay for your water. So if we can invest and perfect these water rights, about 3-4 years ago when we sat down with Public Works, we were providing about 40% of our own water. With this new one, we'll be up to 70%. And then we're going to go to Highway 9 and perfect that one, and we'll be up in the 90% area. That's the only reason you have stable water rates in the city of Marysville. I've talked to other communities that literally the mayor will come and say, we're doing an 11 or 13% water increase this year. How in the world do you guys keep it at 1 or 2%? Because it's unheard of. Water is such a resource right now, such a commodity. And this is how it's done. And so our public works team's done a great job in managing this. And I just wanted to share that. Sometimes those nut and bolts issues of city government, nobody notices them until you open up a water bill with a 15% increase. But the reason sometimes it stays manageable is because of things like that. Up in the Whiskey Ridge area, you're probably aware of this, but Lowe's is looking at coming in up there, so there'll be some work around that and new road improvements that they'll be putting in to help in that area. We're noticing a lot of development up in the Sunnyside Whiskey Ridge area. Dave and I were meeting this morning, and it's amazing how much is going on there. So we're aware of that, and we're looking at putting infrastructure in and helping with that. I also wanted to share some of the new businesses coming in other areas. In 2017, there's a list of some of the commercials, businesses and others that we had come in. And then in 2018, there's a list of what is coming as well. You'll notice about 3 new car dealerships and 3 new hotels there, which is something that's interesting. We're always interested in all these hotels that want to come to Marysville. I'm sure part of it's a spillover, a good chunk of it's probably a spillover from the people visiting Tulalip in the gaming facilities that maybe don't want to pay their rates there, and so they come here, but put some of the money in our community. We're grateful for that. I've also had a lot of inquiries. We're having a Sonic ribbon cutting, if you like Sonic milkshakes. I think the post 10 p.m. milkshake deal. That'll be open next week. And so I think it's neat, too, the auto road that we're kind of developing out there. We'll have a lot of options to purchase your cars in Marysville, keep that money local. And so that's exciting as well. Business attraction is something that we pride ourselves in being a business-friendly community. We're blessed to have a lot of great businesses that contribute a ton back to the community as well, both charitably and in jobs and revenue. So we did launch an economic development piece on our website too that you can check out. I think that was the piece that was running earlier. You might have had a chance to see it. And it also lists a lot of stuff that we're doing, our strategies for that. Community events, as we start to wind down here, we try and offer a load of free and low-cost community events. And Jim and the Parks, Culture, and Recreation team just do a marvelous job of this. From the 130 or so events they put on in here to Touch a Truck, Marysville for the holidays, Tour of Lights, if you had a chance to do the Tour of Lights, record-setting year at the Tour of Lights, our outdoor movies, our outdoor concert series, all of that. The hope is that as we grow as a community and get larger and larger, that we can kind of retain that small town feel with these community events and these ability for us to gather as a community and do some of these fun things. This facility is another great example of that. And I won't go too deep into that because Jim had an opportunity to share with you. I asked him to earlier about the great things going on here, but this is a great asset for our community that we can do a lot with, and you're going to see this thing open probably over 150 nights this year with events, so that's an awesome thing. A couple of trails that are going to get improvements. Bayview. The Bayview connector, I use this trail a lot. Hopefully you've had a chance to. If not, I'd encourage you to use it. Take a look at it. We got $500,000 from the state to complete the connection, the phase 3 connection to Centennial Trail. So now in Marysville, you'll have an ability to connect to the Centennial Trail on Bayview. And so this is going to hopefully take place towards the end of this year in the fall. The waterfront trail. Who's had an opportunity to visit the waterfront trail? Awesome. Yeah, a lot of you. Great asset for our community. Most people didn't even know this area existed within Marysville, where you can wind out and see all the wildlife in the area of the Quilute Estuary, where we partnered with Tulalip to breach that dike. There's about 400 acres of former dairy land that was returned to its natural environment, saltwater marsh home for salmon and birds and plants and animals, and just a great kind of ecotourism spot. And it's a great place to walk. So that was just phase 1 of the trail, about 2.7 miles or so. We have phase 2 and 3 we'd like to do. Phase 2 will take place later this year. And one of the things we were doing in Olympia was asking for a little more money to complete phase 3, hopefully next year. We also did get from the state money for Olympic View Park in Sunnyside, which will help connect to this trail as well. And like I mentioned, the money for phase 2 of that trail. So Jim and the team in Public Works continues to work on that asset for our community, as well as kind of a whole waterfront makeover. That trail is part of what we're trying to do, is take an old industrial area of the city and use our waterfront as an asset. So the trail is one thing, and look in the future. The city owns a good chunk, or it owns most of the property now on the west side on First there, where we're beautifying it. We're hoping to turn that into something that'll give you recreational, retail, dining, cultural options right along our waterfront there. So with all the transportation projects and the things coming, and then that, you're going to see some real transformation in our community. So in closing, needless to say, I'm bullish on Marysville. I think it's a great time to live in Marysville, certainly a great time to work in Marysville. It's a great time to be in city government as well. There are so many great things going on, and one of the things that I did want to share is the great thing about local government at the city, the county level is, for instance, the mayor and your 7 city council members, they all, by virtue of the fact that we hold these positions, live in Marysville. So we've raised our families here, or are raising our families here. In your schools, we drive the same roads, same police protection, deal with the same things you're dealing with. That's not necessarily the case in Washington, D.C., right, or even Olympia. So every thing you love about this community we experience. Every challenge that you face, we experience. We're right in there with you. And all the taxes you pay, we pay. All the fees you pay, we pay. That's the beauty of local government. And so what I would tell you is that we get up every single day determined to make this community better. That's why I said it's such a great partnership. I just love working with our city council. We don't have egos. Everybody doesn't always agree on everything, for sure. We have 4-3 votes, 5-2 votes. There's things that they disagree that with me on too, but we're in harmony in trying to make the community a better place, in complete synchronization on that. And that's the common goal, and the city staff is the exact same thing. And so we're going to continue to do that, and we're going to continue to look not at just how to solve today's problems, but look 2, 5, 10, 20 years down the road, like I said, at things that we may never be around to see come to fruition, like the water project, the road projects, but that are critical. And lastly, I think, as we look around today and in our country and in our community, people are really hungry to come together around something bigger than themselves, to rally around something that's larger than all the things that we disagree about, right? And I think that what's really cool about Marysville and the people that I know is, we've overcome some things. We had a school shooting that we overcame. There's still scars from that, but we overcame it. We've overcome a lot of challenges in this community, and I think we understand what community means here, whether it's social service organizations, whether it's churches, community groups, neighborhoods. There's nothing really more satisfying to me than when I go into a Safeway or any store, I shouldn't name out a store, but whatever store I go into, Hilton Pharmacy, and I get stopped by a resident and they want to tell me about the great things going on in their neighborhood. Or on the other side, they want to say, hey, Mayor, this is an area I think we need to improve in. And I'll tell you, I've had some real genuine conversations like that. And I love the ones, this is what I think we need to improve in. And here's an idea maybe to do it. And I think that's healthy, and so sometimes when we look on social media these days, and I do it, it's part of my job to stay educated on what's going on. I look at the crime and community page just like you do. And, one of the things I would say is that there's a lot more that unites us in Marysville than divides us. And so we're going to focus on those things. And where there are issues, we want to hear about them and we want to tackle them. I hold coffee clutches regularly for that purpose alone, to hear what's going on in your neighborhood, what can we do better? Because we think, hopefully what you saw tonight was a lot of great things happening and a lot of great things coming. We also know that there's challenges out there, things that we can do better, that you demand of us, and rightfully so, and we're going to set out to do that. So proud to be a part of this community, and what really makes this community great, as I said at the outset, is the residents, the businesses, the neighborhoods, churches, the social service organizations, all that. That's just what community is all about. And you guys make it that, and you make this community what it is.